What's up, guys? Back here again with another quick video. One of the questions I get asked the most is how much work is involved in maintaining, cleaning, the upkeep of aquariums. And so I just wanted to kind of take a minute and talk about, kind of what works for me and just some ideas that I have that may benefit you when it comes to maintaining your aquariums. First thing I want to talk about is finding balance and being consistent. I think there's so much information out there that it can get confusing on what to do, when to do water changes, how to feed your fish, lighting, things like that. And for me, I have a full-time job, so a lot of the things I do with my tanks revolve around that. I'm sure most of you work or have something other than fish tanks going on in your life, so you have to find time around that. And really, it's just putting yourself on a schedule and being consistent with that schedule. So, my theory is, if you can find consistency in your life and get yourself on a schedule with maintenance and water changes and feeding and lighting, that will give your tank, a sense of consistency and balance. When I'm talking about water changes, and I'm sitting here in front of the 36-gallon bow front, and let's just take this tank for example. I do maybe a 25% water change once a week. If I, for whatever reason, happen to miss a week, I'll do a 50% water change. If I, see, and I hardly really have issues with algae and things like that, but if I see something is off in the tank, I'll do a 50% water change just to kind of, give the tank a fresh start. With that in mind, that leads me to talking about beneficial bacteria. And, people ask me, so, do you have to go in and wipe everything down and clean everything off? And the answer is really no. And for a couple reasons. First one is I don't think you want to do that. I'm not an expert on the nitrogen cycle, but I do understand it. I get it. I understand how it applies to aquariums and why it's important. But to sit down and explain it to you, the science behind it, I probably couldn't do that. But let's just keep it real simple. Beneficial bacteria is needed in all aquariums, freshwater and saltwater. Without that, essentially the water, the tank could essentially become toxic. You need that beneficial bacteria to break down essentially the waste that your fish produce. Beneficial bacteria does not grow or colonize in the water column. It simply colonizes and grows on surfaces. So your glass, your plants, your rocks, your substrate, your filters, everything in here that has a surface essentially is where your beneficial bacteria lives and thrives. Obviously, the more surface area, you've heard things like that, the surface area when it comes to sponges and things like that, the bigger the colony. The more beneficial bacteria you have in your tank, in my opinion, the better. So going in and simply wiping everything off, or taking a sponge or paper towel and you drain it and wiping everything off because the glass is a little bit dirty, that actually does a lot more harm than it does good. My advice, if you do have algae spots on your glass and things like that, yes, you can get a little algae scraper. I have one. But live plants, live plants does a couple things to the aquarium. It is aesthetically pleasing. It does give your tank a naturalistic feel, but it also is its own separate filtration system. So like in this tank, I have all these plants that are growing, and just like the plants and trees outside, you know, fertilizer, they use that, you know, to grow and thrive, and they do the same thing in here. So with the plants is one filtration unit, and the two filters, the submersible filter and the hang on the back filter. You know, I've got quite a lot of filtration in this tank, which allows me to, you know, probably keep it overstocked, which it probably is. But you know, I don't have any issues with algae or anything like that, or poor water quality. I don't see, I don't have cloudy water or anything like that. You know, the tanks, you know, for the most part, you know, kind of maintains itself, except for these two angelfish that always want to fight. Anyway, so you know, also, you know, consistency with feeding, how you feed your fish, when you feed your fish. You know, some people say you should feed your fish twice a day. Some people say once a day. I gotta be honest with you, I feed my fish once a day. And honestly, that works for me. That works for the fish. The fish are healthy. They've put on a lot of size since I got them. I think I want to say this tank's been up 10 months, maybe 9 months. I'll have to go back and check. But you know, the fish are doing well. Haven't had any issues with diseases or fungus, anything like that. I don't overfeed my fish. Like I said, I feed them once a day, which essentially helps with controlling the waste, which helps with water quality, helps with you know, beneficial bacteria don't have to work as hard. Another thing that I'm consistent with is, you know, today's one of my off days, that's why I'm shooting this video. But essentially, my lights are on when I'm here. You know, I have you know, a one-bedroom apartment. No one else is here. So I don't run my lights when I'm not here. If you know, if I come in at 9 o'clock or something like that, and I'm up till 11 or 12, that's when my lights are on. So that's another way to kind of cut down on you know, an unsightly tank or a breakout in algae and things like that. But again, I guess what I'm trying to get to is, you know, with an aquarium and, you know, tanks and things like that, there's so much information out there, and it can really be overwhelming and confusing of what to do. My advice is find a routine for yourself that works for you, works with your lifestyle. If you have somebody who's at home and they can feed the fish twice a day and do water changes, you know, twice a week and things like that, great. If you're not, then you've got to find another, you know, schedule that works for you. Maybe you're only doing water changes once a week. You know, I know some people that have tanks that, you know, just because of the amount of plants and filtration, they do a water change, you know, once every 2 weeks, you know, but that works for them. I wouldn't maybe adopt that idea for me, because that may not work for me. So finding balance and consistency in your aquariums, I think, has a lot to do with finding balance and consistency and your schedule with your aquariums, if that makes sense. You know, I think, again, like I said, there's so much information out there, it can be confusing, but honestly, you know, anyone who's just getting started in it and watching the YouTube videos, like, there's a ton of information out there. But simply, you know, maybe stop at your local fish store, talk to somebody, get some advice, set the tank up, you know, plan it. That's one thing that has worked for me. I like the natural look, and I know that these plants are also they're helping filter the water, but you know, find something that works for you. If you can only do water changes at a certain time and that's working for you, great, stick with it. You know, maybe later on down the road, change something up. But just a quick video, just want to talk about that. I've done something a little different with the channel. You know, I've kind of gone away from the whole maestro thing, and that was something that I used when I first started the channel. I thought the channel was going to be about comic books and things like that, which is another hobby of mine. But I just want to keep it, you know, simple and really focused on aquariums. So I've renamed the channel. Feel free to subscribe. Any comments or questions about this particular video, as always, leave them down below. I'll do my best to try and answer them and respond as best as I can. But as always, see you guys down the road. Bye.